I enjoyed England and walking down the street. I was away for 3 weeks, and I'd been to Africa and, oh God, third world nations. But I didn't need to go to Africa to come back and say thank God for America. Some of my friends say, when do you want to go back? I've had 4 visits. I've had enough. But there's no comparison. The bounty we have here, and you have Africans telling me, I wish I could get in your suitcase and go back to America with you. I wish I could go back there. It's such a wonderful place. And one of the things to my chagrin is that many of the Africans know American history better than we know it. They can name the capitals of our major cities. They can, and you talk to some of our kids that come out of college here in America, and you better not ask them about what's Seattle or what's the capital or hardly of Michigan. And you don't ask them about the Bill of Rights, but these folks know our own history better than we do, and I believe that's why we're in the terrible shape we are today. That's why we who are of the mind that we need to give rebirth to the founding principles or to commit ourselves as never before, as declaring whenever we get a chance that I'm thankful to be an American. Said all to say this, I was going into the rest stop, and the gentleman was going, and I was going. It's such a beautiful day out there today. And I said to him, wow, boy, this is a beautiful day to be in America. And he came back right quick. Even if it was raining, sir, it'd be a beautiful day to be in America. I said, I agree with you. Either way you go, thank God one more time, we America. Many of the things that we address as we go around the country and talk, but the major 2 things that I talk about quite a bit is, one, I'm terribly dedicated to the right to life issue. Most certainly, I believe America's greatest sin most certainly was not slavery. It was abortion. It was the taking of the life of an innocent human being. But I'm not specifically going to focus on that tonight, even though I'm more than aware of the fact that Margaret Sanger, a eugenist, had decreed that she wanted to exterminate the black race, and so she set up a great plan called the Negro Project that was intended to eradicate black folk from America through her eugenics process, through birth control, etc. And it's a tragedy in my community that over 2/3 of all black babies conceived die in abortion clinics. And isn't it sad? To me, it's so sad, rather, that in our community we do far more to destroy our own race than those individuals, even as insidious as the Ku Klux Klan, which has been documented as killing 5,000 individuals during their reign of terror. But there again, history, I guess that's just my thing. I love it. With history, when you read about the Ku Klux Klan and that they lynched approximately 5,000 people. David Barton has done a great book. I don't know if any of you have read it, David Barton of Wall Builders, and the title of the book is Setting the Record Straight, America's History in Black and White. David Barton has a tremendous ministry in reference to the influence of God in the establishment of this country. But one of the statistics he has in there is that of the 5,000 people lynched by the Ku Klux Klan, 1,200 of them were white people. They were white citizens and people who were abolitionists and who believed that everybody had a right to be free. And so often these kind of things are overlooked in our history because people want to divide and conquer. It's just like they vilify the Tea Party folks, and they're a bunch of racists. And some folks who've never been to a Tea Party meeting, never met a Tea Party person, but they're individuals, the propaganda. I said, I wish some of you would come to some of those meetings, you just find out these are everyday people that worry about whether their grandchildren are going to eat. It's not so much whether we're going to eat, but whether our children and our grandchildren are going to eat. I've said it on more than one occasion. Thomas Sowell is quoted as saying to Walter Williams one day, man, I thank God I'm near the end of the journey, because if America keeps going like it's going, listen, this is not going to be a nice place to be a few years from now. So I feel somewhat like Walter, but I'm hoping that there are some of you in here that can pass on to your children, as well as my wife and I are trying to pass on to our grandchildren and children, that there's some things that's worth fighting for. And just for the next few moments, I want to talk about contending for the Constitution. Contending for the Constitution. I don't want to be accused of plagiarizing, and that's the name of a great book. Contending for the Constitution is a great book written in reference to some of the things that happened amongst those who gathered to really do one thing and ended up doing something else. And so when we're talking about contending, we're talking about those who are engaging themselves in combat. When you look up the word contending, you are talking about combat. You are talking about a fight. You're talking about to strive to implement an idea or a concept. When you're talking about contending, you are talking about being in the conflict or the struggle. When you're contending for something, you're not standing to the side, but you're engaging the situation with your energy and your strength. And this book, Contending for the Constitution, and I believe that just as these individuals back in the 1700s gathered to contend for a constitution, we stand at a crossroad in America where once again individuals are going to have a burning zeal and desire to contend for the Constitution. And with that, as we look at some of the history about the Constitution, this great book gives you some very insightful looks into that process. It says that in 1787, a group of men came together and they had a purpose for coming together. They were concerned about this infant nation, the nation that had just been through a very traumatic experience called the Revolutionary War. Men had met earlier, gave us the great Declaration of Independence, but after the war of the 1776 had been fought and won, they still understood that what had been gained, what had been won, had to be fought for, and the battle was not over because the outside forces had been eliminated. They realized that they would have to create an instrument or a document that would hold this nation together, because to be free from England but not have the ability to stay together as a group would spell doom for this great experiment and for the struggle that they had just experienced. So in the book Contending for the Constitution, the author of this book speaks to the fact that when these gentlemen in 1787 came together to try to develop an instrument to keep the country together, they had something that we don't hear much about now, but the Articles of Confederation. And the Articles of Confederation was authored by John Dickinson, and he was complimented for the work, but there were individuals that realized even with his work, this document wasn't perfect. And to prove his words correct, in a few years they found out after creating this document, which was signed on November 15, 1777, it was ratified. They discovered that, listen, it needed to be fixed. So after a few years of arguing and after having little trouble and conflicts among the colonies, they decided that we need to come together and try to perfect these Articles of Confederation.